All right, story time. I'm going to tell you about my most stressful day. I don't know if it's my worst day as an entrepreneur. I think my worst day as an entrepreneur came when I had to let go my best friend who was in my wedding. Still to this day, one of my best friends. But my most stressful day as an entrepreneur is easily this event that I'm going to tell you about right now. Give you a little bit of background. We were growing a pickup and delivery student storage business. So we started this in college. We do basically when a student moves home for the summer, we show up before they leave, we pick up all their stuff, store it in a warehouse, and then redeliver it wherever they move the next year. So it's a ton of part-time labor. We're busy during finals week when the students are moving out, and we are busy during move-in week when it's time to come back to school. And the rest of the year, not a whole lot goes on, maybe one or two pickups a day. And I think this was about 2014, the 2014 summer, possibly 2013 summer, actually. Basically, we graduated college in 2012, decided to keep on going, grow the business as much as possible, take a little bit of risk, get aggressive. And we knew that meant going to more schools. We started it in Ithaca, New York at Cornell. The year after that, we went to Iowa, Illinois, and Indiana University. And the year after that, we decided to really grow, and we knew that we needed to get to Boston because Boston is the epicenter of colleges. We have Harvard, MIT, Northeastern, BU. Those are the big ones. Also Tufts, Brandeis, Emerson. So between those 7 schools, we have 3,000 customers that we get today. I'm going to tell you the story of how we got to Boston, when we got to Boston, and how stressful it was when we got there. So me and my partner were living in Chicago at the time. We were working on a shoestring budget, living in his uncle's house. His uncle had passed away. He left a house to the estate that needed a lot of work. So his family was kind of fixing it up while they were getting ready to sell it. It's in Portage Park, Chicago, a little bitty 3-bedroom house. And our job was to move in, work there during the day, but also paint, do trim, get the whole place ready to sell, ready for the estate to sell it. So we were in there working. We knew we needed to get a box truck for the Boston branch. Our goal was to launch in Boston, so we spent the whole winter building out the processes, building out the hiring manual, figuring out who we were going to hire for what position. Then we're going to go to Boston, launch. My partner was going to go to Penn State, Syracuse, a couple other branches as well. So you're just going to hear my side of the story. He was incredibly stressed as well. So we went and bought a box truck on the south side of Chicago. Found it on Craigslist for $2,200. Went down there. It was a pretty sketchy neighborhood. We bought this box truck. It came with a wrap on the side of it. We had to use the heat gun to get this really ugly wrap off. We painted it with exterior house paint, basically. Put a big Storage Squad magnet on it. And I got in that box truck, drove it to Boston to launch the branch there. We were going to advertise like crazy at MIT, BU, Harvard, all the rest, and try to get something going. So we put some boxes in there, some dollies, some flyers, a ton of sidewalk chalk to do marketing, a lot of T-shirts for our new employees, basically everything we needed to launch a small version of the Storage Squad branch in Boston. And I got in the van and drove there. At the time, my girlfriend, who's now my wife, lived in Boston. She was doing a dietetic clinical rotation internship. She was at Mount Auburn Hospital right in Cambridge. So I crashed on her couch with her and her roommates leading up to this busy season. I think I got in the van about March 20th. So right around this time, I think it was 2013, got in the van to go to Boston and launch the branch in Boston. And I got there, and my job was to find a warehouse, and market like crazy for customers, and then also try to hire a couple employees. So those 3 jobs. Found a warehouse in Everett that we thought would work. That was kind of the most stressful part of it. I think it was about 7,000 square feet in Everett, Massachusetts. And I met with the owner of this place. It was on Bow Street in Everett. I think it was 167 Bow Street in Everett. I think it's been torn down now to develop. I'm gonna look at this place on Google Maps right now. No, still there. It's basically this old industrial building, a coat factory basically, and we got the middle level of it off of one loading dock, had to haul it down a little hallway, and then we had this space. And so we signed the lease. I think it was like $3,000 a month for 7,000 square feet, and we negotiated them down to a 5-month lease. So it was going to start April 15th. The first pickups were going to be at Northeastern. Northeastern got out first at the end of April. So basically we were going to get that place, get boxes delivered, operate our branch right then. So secured that was first. Then for the next basically 3 weeks, all I did was market. I marketed like crazy. I put a backpack on with flyers in the backpack and sidewalk chalk. And I would drive this box truck around or get on the train, and I would get off at Harvard, and I would get out and I would write sidewalk chalk on the ground. And I looked on Google Maps of where the students walk from the North Campus to class. Where do they walk? Or from east of campus, west of campus, where do they walk to get to class? I pinpointed locations, and I was going to put down chalk advertisements. And I just wrote on the ground, Storage Squad, lowest prices in the country, StorageSquad.com. Or student storage, lowest prices in the country, StorageSquad.com. And I wrote that on the ground hundreds of times in sidewalk chalk. Simple, no fancy colors, no fancy graphics, literally just print, writing, concise, right where people would walk right over it. Did the same thing at Northeastern, did the same thing at Boston University, did the same thing at Tufts, did the same thing out at Brandeis. And I just did that every single day. Every time it rained, I would go put the chalk on the ground again. And the flyers, I would stand on the corners when classes would get out, and I would just hand flyers to as many people as I could. This was all at the same time. And I also had other flyers for employment flyers, that if I saw somebody who looked like they could pick up a box, basically handed them a flyer and said, hey, we're hiring, $13 an hour, send me an email. And it had my email address on there. So I spent the next 3 to 4 weeks just going absolutely nuts with marketing. And also interviewed a couple employees, trying to get a couple employees who could drive the trucks. We were projecting to get, I think, about 250 customers is what we were hoping to get. And we ended up getting a lot more than that. It was actually wild. At this time, I remember having an email notification come right to my phone when a customer signed up for Storage Squad in Boston. And it just started pinging me. About April 1st, it started getting pretty heavy. Customer, like, 4 or 5 an hour. When it was all said and done, by the time May 1st hit and we were right in the thick of it, the customers really flooded. Boston University was our biggest market. It absolutely flooded with customers. And they didn't really start signing up until about a week before. They were done on, I think, about May 10th. I was on a truck at Northeastern doing pickups and box deliveries. And I just remember like, oh my God, next week is going to be absolutely insane because we're going to be at BU, Emerson, and Tufts all at the same time trying to pick this stuff up. I don't have enough employees. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do. Basically, I was working around the clock to just service the Northeastern customers that were coming in. The warehouse was starting to fill up. We were going to run out of space. And my employees were getting totally worn out because they were working every day, doing pickups all day, driving back to the warehouse, unloading the trucks. Basically, May 1st came around and it was manic. Way too many customers. We didn't have anybody working customer service for us at the time. Literally, I was answering customer service phone calls. I was driving the truck as well. I was in charge of hiring. I was in charge of scheduling the trucks. I was in charge of overseeing the warehouse. And after about 3 or 4 days of not really sleeping at all, being extremely stressed, we decided to call in some reinforcements. And my business partner drove from Penn State to Boston. He flew in his brother to fly in. His brother's friend, Chris, who now works for our company, flew in as well. My brother came to Boston, and instead of running the 2 or 3 trucks a day, which we were planning on doing, we had upwards of 10 trucks a day. And when it was all said and done, we got about 1,200 customers for the first year, between 1,000 and 1,200 customers for the very first year in Boston. Totally ran out of warehouse space, had to get a backup warehouse space at the last second, way up in Everett that was really crappy space. It was a mess. what was going on was basically we'd send out the crews, two to a truck. Nowadays we use three men to a truck who's going out and doing pickups all day, driving from dorm to dorm, picking up these boxes, filling the truck, driving it back to the warehouse, unloading it. But these 3 busy days in Boston, we didn't have enough employees to do all the schedules. So my business partner, Dan, went out on his own truck. He would just take a truck by himself with a dolly and service all the customers, bring them back to the warehouse. And we ended up renting an extra truck so we could make the second trip of the day. Usually our plan was to come back, unload the truck, go back out again, do a second afternoon, evening pickup set, and then come back to the warehouse. Or come back to the warehouse, after that, and unload again. Well, he was on a truck by himself all day long. Didn't have time to stop for food. I was on a truck by myself all day long as well. So all day we were out on the truck, sitting in traffic, picking up the customers, sweating, working, laboring. And about 6 o'clock would come and the trucks would start coming back. And I would have to send these employees home because I had no choice. I needed them to show up the next day. So I couldn't just have them work 12 hours a day, manual labor every single day. So after about 10 hours, some of them did work 12. I had to send them home, even though there was about 6 or 7 more hours worth of work to do to unload all these trucks in the warehouse and get all the boxes from the trucks into the warehouse. So what ended up happening was the trucks would get back. I would be on the hardest, longest truck of the day. So would Dan. So we would get back later. We'd get back about 8 p.m. The full trucks would be sitting there. We'd have 10 full trucks sitting there at the warehouse at 8 or 10 p.m. that all needed to be empty and outfitted and ready to go back out the next morning. We had no employees left because they were all totally exhausted. Dan's brother, my brother, some of these guys we flew in were in hell with us, doing this stuff with us. But basically we sat there and unloaded these trucks by ourselves till 2, 3, 4, 5 in the morning. On our busiest day, I think we unloaded the last truck at 5 in the morning when the employees were scheduled to show up at 7 a.m. to get in that truck and drive back out to do the pickups again. We'd take breaks from unloading the truck to write emails, do customer service in the middle of the night, respond to customers, get the schedules out for the next day or the day after that. And then 5 a.m. would come and we would basically take wet wipes and wash ourselves off and pour bottles of water on ourselves, wash ourselves off so that we didn't smell horrible in the elevators while we were out dealing with these customers the next day. Because the next day we were going to be in dorm rooms picking up boxes. We were going to be on college campuses. We were going to be laboring again on these campuses. We had no choice but to wash up. So we did that. Sometimes we slept for half an hour. 2 nights in a row we didn't sleep at all. And we just go back out in the morning to do these pickups. Well, about this time, when you've done this for 3 or 4 days, your employees start to get worn out and just don't want to be there. They're just working a part-time job for $13 an hour. Why would they lay it on the line for this company? So what they did was start to make mistakes and start to be unreliable. Every morning, 2 or 3 of them wouldn't show up because they just didn't feel like working that day. So we'd be down even more. We'd send another crew out, down a man, or we would have to, run a truck again on our own that day. So the most stressful day was about day 3, when in one day we had a employee put diesel or gasoline in a diesel fuel engine. He had a full truck about to come back to the warehouse, gets halfway back to the warehouse and he calls me and says, Nick, my truck is broken down. I don't know what's wrong with it. I was like, okay, I don't know what the heck to do. What am I supposed to do? So I called Ryder. We rent our trucks through Ryder. Called them. They sent out a service tech, and I get a call from that service tech about 2 hours later that says, yeah, this truck has gasoline in the diesel engine. It's totaled. Not only are you going to get a big bill for this, but also this truck isn't going anywhere. And it was full of boxes. It was totally full of boxes. So what we had to do was take I'm not even going to talk about how I try to solve this problem yet. But a half an hour later, I get another call from another employee who drove the truck into an overhang. And the top got ripped off. I have a picture of this on my phone. I'll try to put it in the show notes. But I don't remember if it happened on Sturrow Drive, which is a car-only road in Boston, or if it happened at Boston University. I think it happened at Boston University at the dorms on E. Let me see. I'm going to pull up the name of this dorm. that this happened at. Gosh, it was a mess. It was a mess. Hojo. At Hojo Dormitory at Boston University, right on Commonwealth Avenue in downtown Boston. He drove underneath that white overhang, ripped the top of the truck off, and it was stuck under there. Could not move it. That was a half an hour later. So that was another one of my 5 drivers that was just totally stopped. And he was at the beginning of a route. He had another 40 customers to pick up that day. And I just did not know what to do. Didn't know what to do at all. Had a mental breakdown on the side of the road where I was basically in tears. I was on a truck as well, and I just pulled the truck over, got out of the truck, got to the sidewalk on some street in South Boston, I believe, and had like a mental breakdown. I cried. I was shaking. Total anxiety that I thought I was going to lose it all. I thought the business was going to completely fail. I thought this was it. We have absolutely no way we don't have enough storage space to store this. We don't have enough employees that are going to show up tomorrow to help. We don't have, 2 of our trucks are totally ruined. The insurance doesn't cover the roof issue. The insurance doesn't cover an employee putting the wrong kind of gasoline in the truck. So these were both bills that I was going to have to pay. What do I do? What am I supposed to do? Like, I didn't sign up for this. What am I doing with my life? All my friends are working, they're working hard. Yeah, they're working long hours, but they're making great money and they get to go home and they get to do what they want to do on the weekends. What am I supposed to do? And it was hell. There's about 15, 20 minutes there where I couldn't move. I didn't know what to do. I was just having a panic attack, an anxiety attack. I called my mom on the phone. She talked me off a ledge saying, it's going to be okay, Nick, it's going to be okay. But she's also an anxious person, so she didn't have any answers or any calming words. Eventually, I called my business partner, and Dan just even keel saying, okay, we're going to be just fine. You got to think about it, Nick. We got all this revenue coming in. We're going to have plenty of money to pay for these issues. We need to think about what we can do right now. What can we control right now? So what we decided to do was, all right, we're going to rent 2 more trucks. We're going to go pick them up. We're going to take them to the 2 locations. The police and the fire truck was already taking the 1 truck out from underneath the overhang. That one could still drive. Luckily, it wasn't raining out, so that truck drove back to the warehouse. We unloaded it, and then we just took it back to Ryder and turned it in. The other truck got towed, but we had to pull up another truck behind it and load everything out of the 1 truck into the other one. I realized that the real risk was customers not being in the loop and us being really late for our appointments. So I got on my computer and drafted an email to all the customers that were on that truck schedule that had the overhang issue, and basically just said, look, we had this happen. We're going to be really late today. Thank you so much for bearing with us. We're going to give you 20% off your order, and we're going to add you to a schedule that starts about 7 p.m., and we're going to pick it up later. So I was actually out on that truck doing these pickups until about 2 a.m. For these poor customers that a lot of them we ended up doing free service for. I remember being in the BU dorms, running up spiral staircases on Bay State Road on the brownstones because there's no elevators there, just carrying massive boxes and massive orders all by myself, carrying mattresses by myself, carrying full desks by myself because I had no other option. There was nobody to help me. There was nobody to call. It was the most stressful day of my career. The most stressful day of my career. We recovered from it. We worked for another 3 long days, and then finally things calmed down. All the students were gone. We had an overflowing warehouse and an overflowing backup warehouse, but we made really good revenue. We had great revenue figures. That's about a week later was one of the best days of my entrepreneurial career because we looked in the bank account and we looked at our projections and what we projected to do. 250, 300 customers, and we got over 1,000 customers in Boston. That was the moment that we kind of knew that our business had the potential to be big, had the ability to create the life we wanted. And if it wasn't for that stress, we wouldn't be where we are today. So it was an amazing experience overall. But looking back at that panic attack on the side of the road, it makes me emotional thinking about it because it was so hard to deal with. And I guess it's just the lesson that entrepreneurship is not easy at all. I mean, that's one of 15 very serious, very uncomfortable problems that I faced in my career that most people never face. If you're working for a company, you're never going to have that kind of pressure, that kind of dealing with the consequences of your own actions. There was no one to fall back on, no boss to call, no reinforcements to call in, except my business partner and our family, who we begged to come help us. But it's kind of part of it. It's part of this journey. So if you're an entrepreneur, you're going to be pretty stressed out. It's going to be not always fun. I mean, looking back, I could have easily avoided a lot of these problems if I knew better. But that's it. That's all I got. Hope this hits home with you, and hope you can relate to it.